for the Southern District of Ohio. I am joined here today by Chris Hoffman, the special agent in charge with the FBI. Here's what we like to do today. I'll go ahead and make some statements, and then Special Agent in Charge Hoffman will make some statements, and then I'll come back to answer some questions that you may have. You're going to get my disclaimer. These are only allegations at this point. These defendants deserve the presumption of innocence, and we're going to give it to them. Everything we say in the next few minutes are allegations and only allegations. We're here today to announce the arrest of Larry Householder, the Speaker of the House of the State of Ohio, and 4 other defendants for racketeering in relation to what is likely the largest bribery, money laundering scheme ever perpetrated against the people of the state of Ohio. The conspiracy was to pass and maintain a $1.5 billion bailout in return for $61 million in dark money that were used for various things. 1, to line the pockets of the defendants, 2, to build a power base for Larry Householder, and 3, to further the conspiracy, that is, to further the affairs of this enterprise. Make no mistake, these allegations are bribery, pure and simple. This was a quid pro quo. This was pay to play. And I use the term pay to play because that's the term that they've used as alleged in the affidavit. Company A. We have a very, very, very rough diagram of what we're talking about here today. The real diagram would take up probably most of this wall. Right? Company A is provided the $60 million in return for the $1.5 billion bailout. Everyone in this room knows who Company A is. I will be not mentioning the name of Company A because of our regulations and rules. They have not, and no one from that company has as of yet been charged. So I will be referring to this as Company A. It was vital to the success of this enterprise, this conspiracy, that no one knew that Company A's $61 million would be used to do everything to further the affairs of the enterprise. That was the key to the enterprise, the success of the enterprise. In order to do that, the conspiracy had to create Generation Now. Generation Now is also charged as an entity to the indictment. Generation Now is what we call a 501c4, all right? And a 501c4 does not have to disclose the donors to this entity, this enterprise. Unlike a PAC or a super PAC that always has to disclose the source of their donations to the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. 501c4s are not regulated by the Federal Election Commission, but by the IRS. And it is very difficult for any civilian to get anything from the IRS outside their own taxes, and in fact, often us as well. But in any event, they do not have to commit to announce and disclose their donors. That's the key. Now, a 501c4 is actually operated exclusively to promote social welfare. It's a social welfare entity. That's what it's supposed to be used for. And it's more defined on what it's not supposed to be used for. In this case, it did. Political activity cannot be its primary activity. In this case, it was. And it cannot intervene politically in a political campaign on behalf or against any candidate. And in this case, it did. Not a dime of the money, of the $61 million that was filtered to Generation Now by Company A went to any social program. There were no members that donated to this 501c4. $61 million was donated completely by Company A through some other sources, sometimes directly to Generation Now, sometimes through another 501c4, but eventually in that about 2.5-year period, $61 million got to Generation Now. The co-defendants in this case, along with Larry Householder, are all political advisors, lobbyists, who all worked in different capacities. But make no mistake, this is Larry Householder's 501c4, as alleged in the charges. The first part of the scheme, the first part of the affairs of the enterprise, what they had to do their part, remember, their goal was to, for Company A, was to pass House Bill 6 and to maintain House Bill 6. That is, not get it reversed by petition. First thing they had to do is build Team Householder. Team Householder, Larry Householder at the time in 2018 was not yet Speaker of the House. He had to be elected Speaker of the House. So millions of dollars were filtered through Company A, through Generation Now, to numerous, dozens of different enterprises controlled by members of the conspiracy, to confuse, to hide that the money was coming from even Generation Now, to Team Householder. Team Householder was 21 candidates in 2018 that were running in the primaries as well as the general elections. Millions of dollars went to support those candidates and to attack their rivals to get them elected. It was very successful. All of the individuals in Team Householder that were funded by Generation Now via Company A via Generation Now all voted for Larry Householder to be Speaker of the House. Ultimately, only one voted against House Bill 6. Now that we had in 2018, Larry Householder was then elected as Speaker of the House. He had his power base. The next step was to pass House Bill 6. In 2019, millions of dollars were filtered from Company A to Generation Now through all of these entities to pass House Bill 6. Many of you may have remembered in 2019, commercials, mail-ins, flyers, they all ultimately came from Company A. That was it was important and imperative to hide that, and that's what this conspiracy did. Eventually, House Bill 6 was passed. In fact, some of the commercials and some of the flyers kept going after House Bill 6 was even passed to what they called, the enterprise called, running cover for the individuals that actually voted for House Bill 6. As you're aware, after House Bill 6 was passed in 2019, there was a ballot initiative to reverse it. There were individuals that were going to try to get the people of the state of Ohio to reverse it via a ballot initiative to kill House Bill 6. At that point, more money, tens of millions of dollars, went from Company A to Generation Now to this filter system to defeat the ballot initiative. That money was used to bribe individuals that worked on the ballot to get insider information, thousands of dollars worth. That money was used to bribe the ballot collectors on the street to give them thousands of dollars and a flight out of town. That money was even used, hundreds of thousands of dollars of that money were provided to other ballot services, signature services, to do nothing. That is, if the enterprise hires them, they're conflicted off of working for the ballot initiative to reverse House Bill 6. They were successful. And in return, they were able to line their pockets. Millions of dollars went from Generation Now to Company A from Generation Now to the personal benefit of the people in this indictment. We are still looking into accounts. We are still searching for exactly how much money went into whose account. As far as Larry Householder is concerned, you can read by the affidavit, the allegations are about $500,000 went to his personal benefit. About $300,000 went to pay off a lawsuit that he had and some legal fees. Another $100,000 went to a house in Florida and various other money. This investigation started about a year ago, a little over a year ago. It was a very covert investigation. I am not going to get into the means of our investigation, but it was critical that we, as the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI, kept this a secret investigation. It has now changed from a secret investigation to an overt investigation. We are not done with this case. There are things we couldn't do before, people we couldn't interview, people we couldn't subpoena, documents we couldn't subpoena, search warrants we couldn't execute, because if it got back to Enterprise, everything would have shut down. We can now do that. And I think Special Agent in Charge is going to talk about that, but as of this morning, there are a lot of FBI agents knocking on a lot of doors, asking a lot of questions, serving a lot of subpoenas, executing a lot of search warrants. And that's going to go on for days. There's going to be a lot of busy FBI agents and AUSAs here in the Southern District of Ohio. I want to thank, I know in the affidavit it refers to individuals, number of people who were mentioned in the affidavit who came forward, citizens, to tell us what happened, to work with us, and I want to thank them personally. We owe them a debt of gratitude for what they did, these brave people that came forward, and I suspect that they'll be rewarded by this, the information that all the hard work they did and the bravery they put into this has come to something. This is by no means over. We're going to continue with this investigation. We're not going to get into details of what we're going to be doing. The next time we talk to you about this investigation and about these charges will be in regards to anything that is in the public record, any court documents, any filings, any indictments, any charges. We'll share them with you as quickly as possible. We understand that transparency is important in this, and we will do our best legally and ethically to make sure that's done. With that, I'll let Special Agent in Charge Hoffman make some comments.
Thank you, Mr. DeVillers. Good afternoon. I'm Chris Hoffman. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of the Cincinnati Field Office. We cover southern and central Ohio, including the Columbus Resident Agency, which is right down the street here. I'm extremely proud of the incredible teamwork that our FBI Public Corruption Program and the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Ohio have put together. I've told David a number of times, whether we're investigating gangs, child sex trafficking, Chinese spies, or public corrupt officials, we make a formidable team when we're teamed up together. I'm extremely proud of the work we've accomplished thus far. The FBI's Public Corruption Program focuses on investigating violations of federal law by all public officials at all levels. Public corruption is actually the top criminal priority for the FBI. We're definitely engaged in combating street gangs and Mexican drug cartels, child sex traffickers, corporate fraud, healthcare fraud. But our #1 priority in the FBI is public corruption. That's because public corruption erodes public confidence and undermines the strength of our great democracy. Rooting out public corruption is extremely difficult, but is a mission for which the FBI is uniquely suited and postured, trained, and equipped. We have the experience and skills to conduct long-term, complex investigations. We use sophisticated tools and techniques that aren't available to some of our state and local partners. We lead undercover operations when necessary. Today's announcement comes with a warning. From City Council to the State House, all forms of public corruption are unacceptable. When it's alleged to reach as high as it has here in the state of Ohio, we expect our citizens here to be appalled and to be shocked. They deserve better. The federal complaint charging those arrested today details a shameful betrayal of the public trust. And United States Attorney DeVillers did a great job recapping that for you, and the charging document is full of incredible detail for y'all to digest. But not only is it a shameful betrayal, but it certainly details, the charging document does, a sophisticated criminal conspiracy to enact legislation on behalf of Corporation A, to corruptly defeat a potential ballot initiative that could have gone in front of the Ohio taxpayers, and to illegally divert money for their own use, to line their own pockets. So almost $61 million funneled to this criminal enterprise from Company A and its affiliates to aid these efforts. And I think it's an incredible feat. This is the first time racketeering charge has been used on a public official in the Southern District of Ohio. RICO charges are reserved for the most egregious conduct. You've probably heard about them in a lot of mob cases. But this case is certainly justified for RICO. Our state deserves to have an honest system of government that isn't hijacked by greed or corruption. So we hope this is a reminder to anyone that when lawmakers act as criminals, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office are there. We're on the wall. We're watching for you. If you have information about this public corruption investigation, we want you to have the courage that Mr. DeVillers mentioned for some of the people that he thanked earlier to team with us. Help us fight public corruption. If you have information about this case or any public corruption at any level, we want to hear from you. We want to team up with the citizens of Ohio to fight public corruption. I have a tip line that I would like to say for you guys, and I want everybody to call in with their tips, and it's 614-849-1777, 614-849-1777. That's our tip line for public corruption. We're looking forward to hearing from the citizens of Ohio. We know that there's information that you want to bring forward, and we're there for you, and we're looking forward to teaming with you. Thank you very much.
Let's go ahead and take questions in the room first, and then we'll take any on the line after.
Mr. DeVillers, could you explain to us that charging a nonprofit corporation like Generation Now, how is that different from charging individuals? What happens?
That's really not. I mean, the only difference is the Generation Now can't go to prison, but it can pay fines, it can pay restitution, it can be shut down, it can be forfeited. So that's the same rules of evidence, the same burden of proof and elements of offense take place as if it's an individual.
Sure. How much investigation focuses on First Energy? Do we anticipate that any First Energy officials are going to be charged in this?
As I said before, individuals that work for Company A and the Company A in and of itself, we're going to continue to investigate this, and we're going to investigate it wherever it leads, whoever it is, and whoever they work for.
Excuse me, those on the line, can you please mute yourselves again? We've got someone coming through. Thank you.
In your investigation, did you determine that any of these people that were looking for this money, or conversely, it began with another entity saying, we want to make this available to you?
I think as alleged in the affidavit, you can read that, but I think there's absolutely, as alleged in the affidavit, there's a strong inference that this enterprise went looking for someone to bribe them.
You've talked about 20 different lawmakers who were part of Team Householder, most of who voted on the whole, but one voted for this bill. Are they being considered for any charges or investigation? What's the status there?
So the investigation is continuing. I've briefed recently Ron O'Brien, the Franklin County prosecutor, as well as Attorney General David Yost, as well as Justin Herman, my counterpart in the Northern District. There could be some offenses, and I'll let you ask them, that may come out of this that are state campaign finance sort of crimes rather than federal racketeering. But we're going to, again, we're still not sure where this is all going to lead. We're continuing to investigate this case.
David, how many people do you think received money from this enterprise operation, and do you believe this investigation touches the governor's office at all?
We have no evidence that it touches the government's office at this time. And I would say that I don't know. I mean, you can look at the affidavit. There's it talks in detail about where a lot of the money went to. There are a lot of benefits other than money going directly to people, power-wise, as far as their campaigns, as far as things to benefit their campaigns. It didn't actually go into their campaign funds. as much like a PAC or super PAC does, but this is not a PAC or super PAC. This was created completely and utterly to hide where their donor came from and was.
So I want to go back to her question. Has there been any indication that some of the candidates that were part of that team householder had any sense that they were unfairly benefiting from the campaign contributions that were flowing into their races?
I'm not going to comment on that. They're not charged, at least at this point. And the affidavit is very detailed. It's 81 pages, I believe, and you can make your own judgment on that.
As you said during your remarks, they were successful at every step of the way in this conspiracy, and so now this corporation's set to get $1 billion from the taxpayers. Is there any way to turn that back?
$1.5 billion. You know, that a lot of that's outside the Department of Justice. A lot of that's going to have to deal with the people of the state of Ohio. I will say this, and I want to make this clear: we are not commenting as to the wisdom of House Bill 6. And it was clear from the affidavit that House Bill 6 was passed with millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, that were hidden from the people of the state of Ohio. That I think would be clear. That's the allegations in the affidavit. But the ultimate wisdom of the law, we are clearly not going to make any comment on.
Did any lawmakers help you with this investigation?
I'm not going to comment on that this time.
David, how shocked were you when you finally went over these details about how intricate this was, how it was able to go on for so long, since 2017? Can you describe just how complex this was and your reaction when you understood just how evasive this was?
It is extremely complicated, extremely complex. I do want to thank all the agents, the FBI, that worked hard digging all this. This is thousands and thousands of hours of manpower. I want to thank Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Gladfelter, who is our Deputy Criminal Chief in Cincinnati, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Matt Singer for all the work they've done on it. But this affidavit and the reports that we've been through, the first time I read through was almost a year ago. I was briefed in. It took me months to honestly to really get a grasp of what we're dealing with, and we were still and are still getting more and more information every day on this case.
What happens to Larry Householder and those implicated in this?
So right now, Larry Householder is charged by complaint. I believe that the preliminary hearing was set for early August. If he's not indicted by that point, if a grand jury does in fact decide to indict, if it's presented, then we'll have a preliminary hearing, and on all really 6, including Generation Now defendants, and establish probable cause for the complaint. That's the next step.
I'd like to open up to questions on the line. I know it might be sort of, try to go one at a time. All right, back to the room.
Okay.
Where is this going to be tracked?
Right now, it's going to, in the end, it's going to be up to Chief Judge Marbley where it's tried. But at this point, we are proceeding within Cincinnati, Ohio.
Is there a reason for that?
That's where the investigation took place.
I have a question online, if you guys can still take it.
Yes.
Is there any, do you have any information that shows whether the company was aware of how this money was being used?
I think I'll just stick with the 4 corners of the affidavit. If you read through that, again, it's 81 pages. I think you can make your own judgment call on that one. And I'm sorry I'm not answering a lot of your questions, but I can only stick to the 4 corners of the affidavit.
I have a question on the line, if that's your time.
Go ahead.
For those of us who haven't been able to access the affidavit electronically, can you mind confirming the names of the other defendants?
I'm sorry, the names of the other defendants?
Yes.
Yes. Along with Larry Householder, the charges involve Jeff Longstreth, Neil Clark, Matthew Borges, and Juan I'm going to butcher this name, Cespedes.
You mentioned that the governor's office is not implicated. What was the Senate? Was this something that's restricted to the House, or was there a senator that
I guess I could say this, and I want to be clear on this. This is Larry Householder's 501c4. He's the leader of, as alleged in the complaint, the indictment. The money from this went to the detriment of other candidates, Republican candidates in the primaries, Democratic candidates in the general election, and to the people of Ohio. This is what we have so far. We're going to follow the evidence wherever it leads. But yes, I cannot say that we have any evidence that the State House, or rather that the governor's office was involved in any way.
But to be clear, are there sitting members of the Senate or House that are under investigation currently?
I'm not going to say who is under investigation.
But are there lawmakers?
I'm not going to say that either.
So
Yeah.
it says it's politically motivated. What do you say?
If who's politically motivated?
If Larry Householder, decide to say this is politically motivated, will you have anything to say?
Well, it's not. I'm a Trump appointee, one, and these are a bunch of Republicans. But it's not, and it won't, and never be. We are going to follow this and have followed this. I don't care what party they're in. I don't care who they work for. And this is what this office does.
David, in some respects, it almost felt like we could see a little of this playing out in real time, especially when we got to that street-level stuff and collecting the signatures. I guess when you think back on preventing something like this, do you have any thoughts on what needs to change in terms of the laws that might make this less possible? I
absolutely do, and I can't tell you that. I can't comment on that's political. I'm Hatch Act guy, which means I can't talk about political activity at all. It's against the law. I think that any time that you can have transparency in law and in campaign finance, it's good for everybody.
I know you said the investigation is continuing, but do you have any idea how many people total were involved in this? How many people knew what was going on? Are we talking about people in the dozens, less than 10?
I think you can. I'm going to stick to the four corners of the affidavit. You can read through the affidavit and make a decision on that. But certainly, the affidavit talks about other individuals, whether their involvement was criminal, whether it was just an innocent person, or whether it was something in between. I'll let you pass the judgment for now. We're going to investigate and see if, in fact, who they are, what their involvement was, and that is going on. I can't stress enough how busy this office is going to be, and the FBI is going to be, and are right now trying to figure all that out.
Right, this is David. I know there's you don't bring a case. I know you don't bring a case unless you're confident that it's a strong case. But I mean, is there any way to look at this as any kind of gray area, or somebody didn't know the rules, or is it as naked as greed as it appears?
So, funny things about our ethical rules: prosecutors cannot comment on the strength of the evidence until before a trial, and so I'm stuck with those rules of ethics. They're right rules, but I won't comment as to the strength of the case.
But is there any way to look at the laws they broke and say, oh, maybe they didn't know and they screwed up?
You asked me to comment on the strength of the case in a different way. Yeah.
Let's take this question in the corner, and then we'll go back on the line.
I haven't had time to read through all 80 pages yet, but in the press release, it says money was coming in from March 2017 to March 2020. Can you comment on why or how that stopped?
No. I could comment on how it went through how it did within the time period of the affidavit, because that's in the four corners of the affidavit. But it went through, there are many millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars that went at different time periods. The initial for Team Householder was the initial money going through, and it gets into detail on that, a few $1 million. And then it got more when the House Bill 6 was needed to be passed. We're talking about almost $10 or more million going through. And then it really got heavy when they needed to as alleged in the complaint, to kill the petition drive that would circumvent House Bill 6.
Let's take a few more questions on the line, then we'll be done.
Hi. Yeah, I just had a question on the lawmakers you're looking at. Are they all within the House Republican caucus, can you say, or are they in both chambers and both parties?
So again, I'm not saying who we're looking at or describing them, other than the fact that we are continuing to investigate the case, and we'll take it to whatever party it leads to, whoever's involved. We're not concerned about what party they are in, or what, if they're in the Senate or the House, anywhere. We're going to just go forward.
So did the FBI know about any wrongdoing that this was?
Were those directed at both? Were those efforts directed at both parties in both chambers? The efforts. Well, you can read through the affidavit and make a decision on that. But a lot of the bill was really the effort was to deal with the people of the state of Ohio. I mean, it was the vast majority of money of the $61 million went to ads and advertisements and flyers.
Did the FBI know this was criminal before House Bill 6 passed?
We knew it was criminal by the time we had probable cause to do the arrest. What you have to understand is the vast majority of this is document-based. You'll see from the affidavit, yes, there's some recordings and there's some monitoring, but that had to be corroborated. So we are still getting these documents that we have to go through. A lot of it's bank accounts, bank records, financial transactions, millions, and I literally mean millions of pages of it. So even when we get something, it takes us a while to be able to kind of go through that and really know what's in it. So that's what took so long.
I think you're wondering if we could have prevented House Bill 6 from being passed if we had brought this forward sooner. We brought it as soon as we brought it forward as soon as we could make a charge.
Did you have audio or video recordings of householder accepting bribes?
I think that if you look at the affidavit, you'll see the big picture of that, of exactly what he knew and exactly whose 501c4 that was, and as alleged in the affidavit. It is alleged in the affidavit that this is Larry Householder's 501c4 that the $61 million went through for his benefit financially, to get power, to get this House bill passed for Company A.
So he's directing all the money, you're saying? He's telling where the money goes?
As alleged in the affidavit, absolutely.
We're going to take 2 more questions. I have one back here and one here.
David, you talked about this operation being sort of unprecedented in scale. Can you give your personal reaction to its current scope?
You know what makes me angry is we have limited resources. We have in Franklin County and all of Southern District of Ohio, we have just massive overdose epidemic where we've got people dying of fentanyl, people stacking up like cordwood at our coroner's office. We've got a violent crime rate skyrocketing. We've got 2 Franklin County Sheriff's deputies shot this morning in Columbus. We got cases with real victims. And we have to take our resources away from those real victim cases and investigate and prosecute some politicians who just won't do their damn job. That's what makes me angry. And I understand, and we both were just talking about this, everything begins and ends with rule of law. And if we have legislatures or leaders passing laws that they themselves are corrupt, then those laws are themselves corrupt. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
I will say, to give you an idea of the scale, I mean, the long-term investigation piece, I think, speaks for itself. But this is the first Speaker of the House to be arrested in 10 years on a state Speaker of the House on an FBI investigation. 10 years. And so they're rare, and this is certainly egregious, as evidenced by the RICO complaint.
Could this scheme have occurred if Generation Now had been required by law to disclose its donation?
I don't see how it possibly could have. But again, you can read the affidavit and make your own judgment on that.
So I'm trying to speed read here, but could you maybe address some of the practices or tactics that householders use to get this vote across?
Again, the vast majority of money went to advertisings, pressure put on other speakers, House members, to vote certain ways, to get himself empowered to be Speaker before he could do any of this stuff. So that's the means of how they went about doing it. Also to completely attack
opponents of individuals they thought were going to help them, to attack these petition campaigns that were trying to fight against House Bill 6, and to hire private investigators to put surveillance on the people writing them, to bribe individuals within those companies that were doing it, and to literally bribe people training on the street, giving signatures and giving plane tickets to leave the state.
Isn't it so that what's 501c4s do, though? They attack ads and that sort of thing. It's normal for 501c4s.
It's normal for a PAC and a super PAC, exactly. The 501c4 is supposed to be for social programs.
David, have you requested that Larry Householder turn in his passport in order to leave the state? Has he been talked about that?
You know, I wasn't there for the initial appearance, but our common restrictions are, give up passport, don't travel outside the Southern District of Ohio. So I would imagine they're saying.
His demeanor this morning, was he surprised? Did he say anything?
Do you want to take some of this?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So he was very cooperative. Actually, the couple of the agents that were there said that he acted as a gentleman, and he did not resist. He was Mirandized. There was no statement or there was no interview, but he was very cooperative.
Can you talk about what, if anything, in particular you were looking for this morning?
Evidence? Yeah, evidence.
What started the investigation? I don't know if it's going to be updated.
Well, it usually takes someone very courageous to come forward, so I'll leave it at that, and that's why I've implored people. I hope that this case gives other people in the state of Ohio confidence that they can come forward with allegations of public corruption and let us do what we're designed to do. And but I would say that that's how this started. It started with someone being very courageous.
Was it only money? Was it just money that influenced people? Were there any physical or verbal threats that say, hey, if you don't go along with me, this is going to happen, or was it simply just greasing the palms of people?
I believe the complaint does discuss. Larry can be very persuasive, and so it doesn't always have to be money. Power is important. That's why it was important for him to become the speaker. You can exert a lot of authority and a lot of pressure with power. Power is very influential, and so it's not just about the money. It's about the position.
Have you frozen any campaign assets and bank accounts associated with this?
So I will say that we've become extremely busy. I think it was at Churchill you said, David, that this is the end of the beginning, right, and not the beginning of the end. A lot of target letters went out today, a lot of subpoenas, been knocking on a lot of doors, search warrants, bank accounts, a lot of overt activity we couldn't have done. The covert activity kept us, it got us to this point. The overt activity would have tipped our hand, and so I think forfeiture and seizure will be hopefully a big part of this case. I think the people of Ohio deserve to get some of that back if we can, so we're going to try to do that.
Great, thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a